Thank you for tuning in to the GSMC Soccer Podcast presented by the GSMC Sport Network. Your support means a lot to us. So, thank you for tuning into the GSMC Soccer Podcast brought to you by the GSMC Sports Network. Your support means so much to us. We have a great show for you planned today. We'll be talking about Pochettino. He has agreed to become the U.S. men's national team manager. Tim Howard had some comments on Jurgen Klinsmann, discussing about what Pochettino could potentially learn from those mistakes that Klinsmann made. We'll discuss, we'll do a full Premier League prediction since the season is set to kick off tomorrow. With the season kicking off tomorrow, obviously we're going to preview Manchester United taking on Fulham in that game. And make sure you stick around for the end of the show, where I'll be giving you some of my reactions on some of the top soccer headlines going on in the soccer world. Before we start off, please, if you've got a question and we want to hear it during the show, we want to hear it. Your input is a big part of what makes us the show great, and we thrive on your energy and insights. Whether it's a quick comment, a thoughtful question, or just an opinion, you just have to share. Don't hesitate to drop it in the chat. Now, if you want to absolutely make sure your message stands out and gets featured on the show, there's an easy way to do that. Use the super chat feature. Just click the $ at the bottom of the chat box to send in your super chat. This guarantees that your message gets on the air, and it's also a fantastic way to support our channel. We rely on your support to keep bringing you the sports content you love, and we appreciate every bit of it. So go ahead and let us know what you're thinking. Hit that super chat button. And if you prefer, you can also go to gsmcpodcast.net to tip, donate, to leave a comment or question there. And we couldn't do what we do without your amazing support. And we're so thankful to have you as part of our community. We have to start off, though, with the biggest news of all news. My goodness. Mauricio Pochettino has agreed to become the U.S. men's national team manager. Now, it's not officially official in the fact that there's a little bit of more final steps needed, specifically between Chelsea side of it, with Chelsea having some money that they owed because Pochettino left mid-contract. So there's some sort of, there's that needs to be sorted out. But, all the difficult part, whether or not Pochettino wants to actually become the U.S. men's national team manager, the agreement between Pochettino and U.S., it's official. Major outlets out there, Pochettino has agreed to become the next manager of the U.S. men's national team. And for me, it was absolutely shocking news. It was amazing news. It was news that came around, it was official around, because I didn't hear the first batch of no, I wouldn't necessarily say rumors, but the first, there was that first, set of reporters coming out saying, this move is looking imminent. I didn't see those reports. I wasn't really active at that during the early part of the night, like the 7, 8, 9 o'clock Central Time. I wasn't really on Twitter. I wasn't really paying attention to any of the news or any of something. It's when I checked, and then it's when I was checking social media around 4 or 5 a.m. right before I was about to go to bed, because I stayed up the night working on something. I see a post from Fabrizio Romano, who we all know is the holy grail of all sources when it comes to soccer news, has announced that Mauricio Pochettino is set to become the U.S. men's national team manager. Just elated with an eruption of joy, an eruption of absolute excitement and positivity. When I looked at the U.S. men's national team manager, when I woke up this morning and I really remembered the Pochettino, I'm back to the point where there's an optimism there when it comes to the U.S. men's national team. I have to be honest, there was no optimism, especially for the latter years when Greg Berhalter was the manager of the U.S. men's national team. I did not look forward to the U.S. men's camps, and I did not have a sense of excitement. That is going to change now. I'm already excited. I'm excited to watch. I doubt he'll be in by September. I mean, he'll be in, but I doubt he'll be the manager of the September squad. But I'm already excited about that. I'm excited about the friendlies. I wasn't even excited about this summer's Copa America because I knew the ceiling that we had under Greg Berhalter. Now we have a manager, Mauricio Pochettino, who yes, I have been critical about him, when he was the manager of my team, Chelsea, last season. I had, periods of being critical about him, absolutely. But this is a proven manager. This is a manager that's done it at the most elite level. This is a manager that U.S. men's national team soccer fans would only dream of. A manager you could only dream of. A manager that's had this level of success at the top level of European football. With this sort of manager in Mauricio Pochettino, we essentially have the best manager in international football. And if he's not the best, he's in the top 3, top 4. I don't want to disrespect people out there. I know, because when it comes to accomplishments at this sort of level, who has accomplished what, Pochettino has accomplished at that level, I know there's a few managers out there, Luciano Spalletti at Italy, what he was able to do at the highest level in Serie A with Napoli. That's one. He's mistaken. Roberto Mancini, what he was able to do at the highest level at Manchester City and even at Italy, taking them to the European Championship. Now that he's manager he's manager now at Saudi Arabia. That's another that's up there, was Pochettino. And then obviously, there is brilliant also international managers out there, like a Lionel Scaloni, what he's been able to do at Argentina. But he doesn't have Pochettino's pedigree in terms of the elitist level. Okay, well, the World Cup is elite of elite. So since I'm talking about in terms of club football, what Pochettino has done, Lionel Scaloni, but Lionel Scaloni is a brilliant manager. And in terms of international management, there is the element of unknown in the fact that Pochettino, he's never managed a national team. So there's huge pros and there's no huge cons. There's huge pros to this, and there's some a little bit, I think if you want to find some sort of side to be pessimistic about this hiring, which is hard because, this is a dream hire, so you're nitpicking to find anything to be pessimistic about regarding this signing. But if there is something, it'd probably be the lack of experience when it comes to managing. This is a manager that's never managed, period, at the international level, whether it's as a head coach or assistant or anything. So it's going to be different in terms of not being, the day-to-day to implement your system, not having the day-to-day with the players, with the team, having few set times and, few short periods of time where you have to implement your system. So that would be, the biggest negative, to be honest. You can, I don't really think, yes, he has not been able to win the biggest of trophies since in his club football reign, but the U.S. men's national team are not in a position to even get those managers. The U.S. men's national team are not in a position to get a Jurgen Klopp, to get a Carlo Ancelotti, to get a Pep Guardiola, the U.S. men's, in my opinion, the U.S. men's national team is not even at the level of getting a Mauricio Pochettino. But he decided to sign on to the project. The relationship that he potentially has with Matt Crocker, going back to, Matt Crocker's days at Southampton, could be a part of it. But now if you look at the positive sides of this Mauricio Pochettino's hiring, it's endless. Number one, the style of play, the high intensity, high pressing, running around, worksman-like, that fits the sort of American spirit. I think it fits this sort of the players that we have as well. We have those players like Pulisic and Tim Weah and Balogun and Tyler Adams. We have worksman-like players that are willing to run around and, put in a lot of legs. There are fit players that are willing to put in the work, that have pace, that have verticality. We have that. They'll be willing to press. Now, it does concern me a little bit in the fact that, we don't have the best of players in terms of playing out of the back when it comes to our goalkeepers and center half. How does Pochettino work around it? Does he switch to some sort of hybrid in terms of playing out of the back, or sometimes he going long? Who knows? I like to see how Pochettino is to adapt, because he is gonna have to. And Pochettino, the brilliant thing about Pochettino is not what he was able to do at is not, actually, I'd say this, with Chelsea, it was a weird situation. He ended up even getting them back to 6, which is pretty much an achievement in itself. PSG, I don't tend to really be critical of managers over what happened at PSG. I think PSG are a problem of their own. But specifically what he did at Espanyol, Southampton, and Tottenham to an extent, these are 3 teams that he had them playing better than the sum of their parts. Especially a team like Espanyol, he single-handedly saved them from relegation. And then Southampton, in his first season as manager of Southampton, he guides them all the way to 8th place, ends up getting the job at Tottenham off of that. And then at Tottenham, he had this team consistently up there and about in the top 4, multiple years battling for that Premier League title. Had them finish with 86 points one year. That's a sort of, Tottenham, they're never really at that level. They never are at that top level. The Tottenham has, always been a team in and out of the top 4, in and out. He kept them a consistent team up there. He had them playing great football. He had them playing football that everybody wanted to watch. He was able to develop a lot of players, not just at Tottenham, but at Southampton and at Tottenham. He did a brilliant job in Tottenham. And the fact that he is a tactical manager that can get a team better than the sum of the parts is exactly what this U.S. men's national team program needed. It's exactly what we needed. And I have to say, this hiring could not get any better. The sense of optimism that's gonna be that is already, I feel, from the fans, and it's not even officially official. We just we know what's happening, but it's not officially official. And the sense of optimism is amazing. It's a different day in U.S. soccer. Matt Crocker and Cindy Parlow and all that. We've been very, very critical of them, but what they've been able to do, with the U.S. women's national team and men's national team, in terms of getting rid of deadweight coaches in Vlatko Ananovsky and Greg Berhalter, and we saw how Emma Hayes paid immediate dividends for the U.S. women's national team. And you know what the U.S. men's team do after what happens? After Emma Hayes, we see what happens with Emma Hayes and U.S. women's national team immediately after. We get to sign the best in class in Mauricio Pochettino. And I see similar success. Now, obviously, the U.S. women's national team are not at the level of winning a World Cup. They're not there. But I think this makes us very, very competitive. And I think we had much better odds. Following this hiring, much better odds. And I remember going back to this when talking about this Copa America, saying this Copa America failure could be huge for us. And the only way it turns out to be, a big deal, like a huge break for us, because I said it could go 2 ways. It could be horrible or it could be great for us. The only way it turns out to be great is if we fire Berhalter and bring in a top coach. And we have done exactly that. I think Tim Weah's red card will go down in history as one of the greatest things that ever happened to the U.S. men's national team program. I think that's how big that moment was. We just did not realize it at the time. Sacrificing that Copa America was just a small sacrifice for being able to bring in a guy like Mauricio Pochettino. Because let's be honest, we'd be stuck with Greg Berhalter if we got out of that group. You know, we would have got slid past Panama, probably lost to Uruguay in that final game, get eliminated in the round of 16, and in the quarterfinal against, I believe we were played Colombia. And then, you know, Berhalter would have probably retained his job, would have been absolutely horrible, and would have been the continuum of misery. But instead, we get to bring in a guy like Mauricio Pochettino. Are you freaking kidding me? Are you kidding me? Like, the changes, the change in optimism that surrounds this program is amazing. Timothy Weah, you are forgiven. Don't do nothing again like that with Pochettino in. But you, my friend, are an American hero, and it's a great day for American soccer, and we have a great future ahead of us, a great 2 years ahead of us, battling to be the best possible team for that home World Cup, in which I believe with a manager like Mauricio Pochettino that's able to get the players playing better than the sum of their parts, I think we are destined to have an amazing run at the World Cup. God bless America. God bless the people that made this decision. This is going to be a fantastic day in the history of U.S. soccer. Short break here coming up. When we come back, we'll move on to talk about some more about Pochettino, obviously, but specifically about Tim Howard. He had some comments on Jurgen Klinsmann, and it's an interesting conversation. So stay tuned for that.
I feel like I'm losing my mind. Is everybody in the world blind? Please, Lord, give me a sign, a sign. I feel like I'm losing my mind. Is everybody in the world blind? Please, Lord, give me a sign, a sign.
I wanna be the greatest. Everybody on their fake shit. I look around and feel like everybody is the fakest. I make this every day and I'm impatient, hoping one day I blow up from the basement. Statement, the top is so vacant. I don't hear shit that I think is amazing. Waiting for my day when I'm playing sold out shows for 1,000 faces. Hey, give me that crown, get in my way and to be put down. It ain't your place, all this my town. If I want that shit, then I'll get it right now. I'm losing it, the noose it fits. I'm losing shit, a stupid myth. You choose to live or choose to dip. You choose to fight or lose your grip and lose a gift.
I feel like I'm losing my mind. Is everybody in the world blind? Please, Lord, give me a sign, a sign. I feel like I'm losing my mind. Is everybody in the world blind?
Before the break, we talked about Pochettino agreeing to become the U.S. men's national team manager. Interesting conversations here with Tim Howard. He had some comments on Klinsmann and we're discussing about this new Pochettino hire. He had some interesting comments on Klinsmann, talking about this new Pochettino signing. First of all, I'd have to say Tim Howard. He said Mauricio Pochettino is essentially the perfect man for the U.S. men's national team job. He said he's the perfect man for the USA job, and it was foolish to suggest anything else. And he was, he kind of warned that the last foreign manager was a disaster, but this is, he said this hiring was the perfect hiring. Speaking about Mauricio Pochettino being hired, he said they had to flex their muscles, dig deep into their pockets and go for the biggest name out there. They had to find someone who's gravitas, someone who gives the USMNT the best chance of avoiding a repeat of this summer's Copa America. And Mauricio Pochettino, I think he's a great hire in terms of that. Here, I'm gonna bring exactly what he said. But Tim Howard, when he talking about Pochettino, he also sparked some comments about the Jurgen Klinsmann reign. Howard, he was involved. He was one of the leaders of the Jurgen Klinsmann's U.S. men's national team, and he said that there are plenty mistakes that Pochettino can learn from Jurgen Klinsmann. And speaking about it, he said, I was there before, during, and after his reign. I spent 15 years on the national team, and I remember a time there was a bigger disconnect between the players and the manager than under Jurgen. He organized a lot of team excursions. He specialized in fluff and philosophical rhetoric, but there was zero soccer. We went to Versailles. We went to the 9/11 memorial. We went on boating trips. He made us come into lunch and sing the national anthem. He dictated when we slept and when we woke up. He decided what we were. He replaced sugary snacks and enforced tighter curfews. He tried to change our breathing. He sent us on empty stomach runs at dawn. He hired people and literally made up staffing positions for them. Jurgen tried to reinvent the wheels, but he didn't teach us a lot of soccer. So we had to rely on the likes of Michael Bradley, Clint Dempsey, Landon Donovan, and Josie Altidore to bring the team together and win games in spite of the manager. The lesson for Pochettino to learn from Klinsmann: understand the American player. Don't make it about yourself. Every culture has different nuances whenever you coach around the world. So yes, players have to be pushed out of their comfort zone, but you have to learn what makes people tick. Interesting comments there. Jurgen Klinsmann, I have to say, growing up as a U.S. men's national team fan, obviously I watched a little bit of the Bob Bradley time. That 2010 World Cup is my first time a little bit watching soccer. But the beginning of my U.S. soccer fandom, the majority of it was Jurgen Klinsmann. And at the time I was very, very young, so I didn't really understand, coaching and not coaching, whether he's a good or not coach. I liked Jurgen Klinsmann as a coach. I did, because I thought the results were pretty good. We got out of the group stages at the World Cup in the group of death. We had a lot of European friendlies in the lead up to that where we played really, really well and got some good results. A lot of them happened in Europe, and overall, I like the feel under Jurgen Klinsmann, but I didn't really understand some of his potential tactical deficiency, all that. I wasn't clever enough mind really to understand that. But going back, especially talking to some of the older U.S. men's national team fans, they're not fans of Jurgen Klinsmann. They say he was a horrible tactician and he was really a motivator and all that, and they go back to the 2006 World Cup, in which he was really a motivator, and Joachim Löw was really the tactician and the brains behind that team, and that's the reason why they were able to make the run. A combination of Joachim Löw and the fact that they were at home was really the reason why they were able to make that run in the World Cup, not because of Jurgen Klinsmann. All set aside, it was clear that, Jurgen Klinsmann was not, and you see what he's been able to do post his U.S. men's national team career. He has not done much at all. Jurgen Klinsmann has not done much at all since his post run after being the manager of the U.S. men's national team. He took over Hertha Berlin 3 years later, in which he did absolutely nothing. Then another 3 years later, he took on South Korea, and it was another, disaster. So, look, I don't want to dwell on the Jurgen Klinsmann time. I think it's the right time for that. I think we should be celebrating what we have now in Mauricio Pochettino. But, it's clear, there is a lot of negativity, not negativity towards Jurgen Klinsmann, but in the fact that he just wasn't that real good of a coach. But he got the players motivated at least. The results were not bad during his time, I have to say. We can argue this or that. The results were not that bad though. We had a lot of great friendly performances in Europe against top European teams. And yes, they are friendlies, but we replicated that sort of form, and we took it to the World Cup, and we got out of the group of death, and we were seconds away from not only getting out of the group of death, but we were seconds away from winning that game against Portugal. Would have completely shifted the group. And we had a few opportunities later on in that Germany-US game, in that third group stage game, to nick a point there too, which I don't believe would have won us the group, because would it have? Let me think. 3, 4, 5. No, it wouldn't have won the group, but it would have made it just made it more interesting. So we would have got a point against Germany, a team that went on to win the World Cup. So I thought we were we had some good results. The Copa America 2 years later, we got out of the group, and then we actually beat Ecuador in the quarterfinals to reach the semifinals. You saw Greg Berhalter, he got eliminated in the group stages, and then after a poor start to World Cup qualifying, he's immediately fired. It's that's an interesting conversation to be had. But yes, there are some results Pochettino can learn. But at the end of the day, I don't think Pochettino can learn much from him, because I think they're two different styles of manager in terms of that. Pochettino is a tactician, a brilliant tactician, and a brilliant, clever mind who'll be able to adapt in game, that'll be able to outcoach other coaches, that'll be able to get his players in the best spots to be successful, and really will have them mentally prepared in the games. Now, the question with Pochettino is, can he have them? Can he develop that sort of grit and mentality amongst the team? Because he'll have them mentally prepared in terms of tactically, in terms of understanding of how to play and how to get the result, and how to break a low block, or how to press in efficient areas, and how to do this and how to do that. He'll tactically have them mentally ready, but will he have them in terms of psychologically strong, mentally willed? Will they have grit? Will they be able to, despite being in certain difficult situations, be able to handle themselves and get out in glowing ways? That's the real big question, and that's the question that's set to be answered, that needs to be answered. So yeah, yes, you can learn from mistakes. But overall, I think Pochettino's his own man, and I think it's two complete different situations. But excited again. So excited for this news. Short break here coming up. When we come back, we'll do our full Premier League predictions.
Looking for your daily fix of sports talk without having to pay for it? GSMC Sports Network is available on YouTube. Just search GSMC Sports Network. Get your fix of daily sports talk shows on YouTube, absolutely free. NFL, college football, NBA, MLB, MMA, UFC, fantasy football, and so much more. GSMC Sports Network has shows running all day long, with new sports shows starting every 2 hours. Just like on your favorite cable sports channel, except GSMC Sports Network is absolutely free. Just search GSMC Sports Network on YouTube to catch one of your new favorite shows, like the GSMC College Football Podcast, Chip Shot Football Podcast, Hoops and Heels Women's Sports Podcast, GSMC Basketball Podcast, and so many more. Check it out for yourself. GSMC Sports Network, now available on YouTube absolutely free. Search GSMC Sports Network on YouTube right now.
Before the break, we talked about Tim Howard's comments on the Jurgen Klinsmann's time. Speaking about the Pochettino new hiring, but we got to move on to do our full Premier League predictions. With the Premier League kicking off tomorrow, we thought this was going to be the main part of the show, but I was uprupted early in the morning last night. With the announcing that Mauricio Pochettino is going to be the manager of the U.S. men's national team. That sort of news does take high precedence. But we still will continue on to talk about this Premier League season. It's going to be an exciting season. A lot of big things coming up. United, they're going for fifth straight. Arsenal, can they finally get over the line? New season of managers from Liverpool, Chelsea. We get a little bit different elements in terms of those two football clubs. Ipswich Town making their return to top flight English football. I believe the last time they were in the Premier League was 22 years ago. 22 years ago is the last time. It's been 22 years since they've been since 2002. So there's that. Everything going on. So we gotta start off with my prediction. Okay, well, I have finishing number 1 will be Manchester City. I think Manchester City will win the Premier League. I just think overall, they're too good. They're too good. They're just too dominant. They know how this goes. I feel like sometimes they are a little complacent, and that's what makes this even a title race over the past few years. With Arsenal, I think it's been a little bit of their complacency, because when they're at it, they're the best team in the world. You could talk about Real Madrid, but Real Madrid, doesn't have the quality that Manchester, the ability to dominate the game the way Manchester City can. So, I think it's kind of clear and simple in the fact and why I think Manchester City are going to win. Yes, I think Arsenal has made some good steps forward over the past few seasons. But I believe, Man City relatively has had down points in terms of points over the past 2 seasons. And in terms of their expectation, what we expect from them. And Arsenal has had great seasons, and they still haven't been able to get it done. I think Arsenal just doesn't have enough to compete with Manchester City not right now. And I do think Arsenal will finish second. So there goes my second team. Arsenal, I think they're clearly the second best team. They have continued to improve. I just don't think they have enough to push them past Manchester City. And sadly, I don't think Ricardo Calafiori, even though I think that's another good piece and another, good rotational piece in there, someone that gives you flexibility. But Ricardo Calafiori is not going to be the player that pushes you above Manchester City. You wanted a player to push you above Manchester City. You could potentially get a guy like Osimhen that can compete with Erling Haaland. Calafiori, he's kind of not luxury, but he's sort of a player that makes the squad overall better, but doesn't push you over the top, because he's a defender. He's a center back, he's a hybrid sort of left back, center back. So I'm gonna go. Third place is difficult because a lot of people have been very optimistic regarding Liverpool chances this season. When I see Premier League predictions, you even see some people have them potentially in a title race. I don't know, because look, I think what Jurgen Klopp has done at Liverpool has been great work. Absolutely phenomenal work. And I think he's been able to make that team play better than the sum of their parts, and the fact that he's elevated them higher than what they really have been. And I think he's done a great job at Liverpool. So, can Arne Slot come in and immediately replicate that sort of success and get this team in that sort of third place realm? I think for me, Liverpool, whether they're third or they sneak in barely in fourth, I think it's a good season if they finish top 4. Because this is a new manager. And with a new manager, you want progression and you want a good start. And at the end of the day, finishing third or fourth or maybe even fifth, depending on how this coefficient thing lays out next season, is good enough. Because look, I just don't know. There's an unknown element with Arne Slot. How do the players adapt to his sort of new system? How does his new system translate to the Premier League? We saw how Erik ten Hag, in his Dutch football ways, has been going on at Manchester United. We don't know exactly. There's an unknown element with Arne Slot. And you know, Darwin Nunez, he's hit or miss still to this day. He still has not been able to figure it out. You know, Luis Diaz, he hasn't quite been at the levels in terms of consistency that he was before that big injury that he suffered. You know, Liverpool still does have quality in that attack though. Talking about Luis Diaz and Darwin Nunez, Mohamed Salah, Diego Jota. There's some brilliant players in that front line. But midfield-wise, who's that player to complement McAllister and Szoboszlai? Who's in that sort of physical presence that do the defensive dirty work, but also has the ability to pick out a pass in that holding midfield role? They don't have that. Endo is not, you know, he can do the physical side of it, but can he be the one that picks out the balls in behind and be that sort of conductor in midfield in terms of controlling possession? Endo was not that sort of player. You know what I mean? So that's something that they need to work out there. I don't know about Liverpool finishing third. I don't know. But at the same time, I don't know who finished third. Can I pick Aston Villa ahead of them? No, I can't. So I think Tottenham are a good shout to get into that top four with Solanke coming in. You know what? I'm going to say Tottenham finished third. With Dominic Solanke coming in, this progression that they've made under Postecoglou last season, only finishing 2 points out of the top four last season, you know, with the way how high intensity that they play in terms of their pressing, bringing in a guy like Archie Gray, who has potential, in my opinion, to really change life in that Tottenham's midfield, can potentially win Young Player of the Year. That's how gifted of a player he is. I really like the good work that he's been able to do at Leeds United. And then Dominic Solanke, we know he has a good balance in terms of his physical nature to him and also his pure ability. Getting 19 goals out of Bournemouth with the amount of chances that they create just based on the way Tottenham play football and the amount of crosses that they put into the box. I think, you know, Dominic Solanke can get 20 plus goals. I think he can have a 23, 24, maybe 25 goal campaign for them. And I think that could be enough to push them to the next level. I think Dominic Solanke is the perfect signing and it's the perfect striker to play next to Kulusevski and Heung-min Son. I have to say, Tottenham look very threatening, especially with RG Gray, that young energy coming in. I think Tottenham can finish third. And then based on everything I said about Liverpool, just the unknown element with Arne Slot and the huge letdown it is to not have Jurgen Klopp in there, I think Liverpool will still have a decent season in finishing fourth. And keep in mind, for me, that's a successful season for Liverpool, finishing fourth. I really do. That's a successful season for Liverpool, finishing fourth in my opinion. Fifth, this is difficult. I'm going to say Newcastle finished fifth. I think Eddie Howe is a brilliant manager. I think last year they were very, very, very injury ravaged, with the combination of being extremely injury ravaged and playing Champions League football. This season, there is no Champions League football for them. And the fact that there's no Champions League football, they're going to get their guys back from injury. They're still being managed by brilliant Eddie Howe. I think they can replicate the success that they had pre-last season, the year before last season, in which they didn't have to worry about any sort of European football. And by the way, keep in mind, this team is, they're going to get, Tonali back throughout the season. Tonali is a brilliant player. They also, they also have potential to get a deal for someone like Mark Gahey as well. I'm not really, and they still currently have Anthony Gordon at the club. They haven't lost much in terms of the transfer window. I don't see the pessimistic with them. I think Eddie Howe is a brilliant manager that gets a team better, playing better than the sum of their parts. I have Newcastle finishing fifth, and that could be enough to get them into the Champions League based on this coefficient thing. I think sixth would probably be... think 6 would be Chelsea. Chelsea. I think 6 is going to be Chelsea. I think Chelsea will finish ahead of United and Villa. I do. Actually, do I think they'll finish above Villa? Oh, that's difficult. I'm not high on Chelsea, and I'm a Chelsea fan. I'm going to go Chelsea 6. It's really impossible to predict how Chelsea are going to do. I think I'm maybe a little bit more on the optimistic side because I'm a fan, but it's really impossible to think what they're going to do. But there is some real talent in the squad, just based on the amount of money invested in the squad. And if Enzo Maresca is a half-decent manager, he's going to be able to get this team at least to 6th place eventually. You know, the season will start off poorly, but I think eventually, we'll start, being able to adapt into Enzo Maresca's, sort of style, and I think we'll get 6. I think United that's a poor season if I have them finishing 7th or 8th. That's a really poor season for them, and maybe I'm being slightly disrespectful. I'm going to go Villa 7th, United 8th. I know, very disrespectful to Villa, to both teams. First of all, Villa, I just think playing Champions League football is going to get the best of them. Really, that's my big thing in here. And I think a lot of the teams above them have gotten better. I think it's a little harsh to put Chelsea ahead of them. Okay, so I can understand people wanting them to be at least 6. But I do have them 7th on this list. I just think European football, they don't have the squads that these other top teams have, besides Newcastle. But the difference between Newcastle and Villa is the fact that Newcastle is not playing Champions League football, while Villa is. We saw how much of a toll that took on Newcastle. I can see that taking a similar toll on Villa. I'm gonna go United 8th. It's just I don't understand the direction the United is going under. I think goal scoring is a huge issue. There are 2 players that they have that are comfortable playing that sort of number 9 sort of position, Xerxes and Højbjerg. They don't score enough goals. They got players in bad form from last season, like like Marcus Rashford specifically. We don't know how this new center-back partnership is going to work out. There's a lot of unknowns. Andre Onana, Erik ten Hag, after finishing 8th. Okay, real quickly. Player of the year. I think player of the year would probably going to be, De Bruyne, Foden, Haaland, someone from, Manchester City. I'll just go Haaland. Haaland gets player of the year. Haaland gets goal scorer of the year. And Haaland potentially gets Ballon d'Or. I think this could be his first Ballon d'Or. We'll see. 3 teams going down. I will say, I'll say Southampton will go down. I don't fancy them staying up. I think Nottingham Forest is going to go down. Nottingham Forest is going to go down. I think their time is coming. They've been hanging on. And I think, I rate Ipswich, with McKenna. But, I think some of these teams in the relegation race right now are pretty good teams, like Everton, Bournemouth, Wolves, Brentford. So I'm going to go Ipswich going down, but I think Ipswich could stay up. I do. I think Ipswich have something about them to stay up, but I'm going to go for them going down. But yes, those are my full Premier League predictions, guys. Make fun of me or you're not. We'll see at the end of the season. Short break here coming up. When we come back, we'll do a quick preview of Manchester United versus Fulham.
For the best and latest podcasts available anywhere, go to the podcast app on your cell phone and type in GSMC to access free content-rich podcasts on health and wellness, book reviews, sports, entertainment, relationships, social media, movies, technology, finance, and even weird news. Subscribe and download the GSMC Podcast Network's family of shows, available everywhere podcasts are found.
before the break, we talked about we did a full Premier League prediction. We move on to do a Manchester United versus Fulham preview. Manchester United take on Fulham tomorrow. First match of the Premier League game will be played at Old Trafford. Manchester United are definitely the favorites in this game. The fact that the game will be played at Old Trafford, this is their, Manchester United. This is they're opening the Premier League season at home for the 8th consecutive season. Because we all know there's something called the Manchester United privilege, actually, Fulham last season, they were able to get the win at Old Trafford last season. So Fulham, this is not a ground that they're particularly scared of in terms of recent history. Erik ten Hag, he wants to start off his Manchester United campaign this season strong. After a horrible season last season, finishing 8th, their worst finish ever in Premier League history. They were able to conclude that season with the FA Cup win. But overall, the Premier League season was a horrible campaign, and he's on the clock and he's on watch because they get off to another bad start this season. He's not gonna be the manager very long. He'll be gone before even it begins. And now the squad, they have strengthened in terms of their transfer window. United has Lenny Yoro, who's injured, Joshua Zirkzee, and then the big one that's gonna be potentially available tomorrow, Matthias de Ligt. They're all been in. Mazraoui, he's also been added to the team, and there's the injury bug has already hit United. Lenny Yoro being out, Luke Shaw, he's ruled out, it's Rasmus Højlund, he's also gonna miss up top. He's gonna be out until September with a hamstring thigh issue, Jadon Sancho, he's has a chance to probably be involved in there because Zirkzee, he's still adapting to the team. Overall, United, this is a big game for them. They need to start off with a victory. Overall, it was hard to do these sort of previews before the game because we don't really understand the form. We don't really take preseason. Based on last season, we know Fulham, they'll be competitive. They won't be afraid to go after United, to go after them at Old Trafford. And Marco Silva, he'll have his team playing well. He'll have his team tactically set up very, very well. Very, very disciplined, closing down the spaces, making it a little bit difficult. I think there'll be moments in which they'll take advantage of possession and they'll have opportunities to pin in Manchester United deep because Manchester United could have moments in time that when they're suffering, they really, really suffer. So, it's gonna be an interesting game, in my opinion. The West London club are gonna come to play, so I'm very, very excited for it. As far as news for Fulham, Emil Smith-Rowe he's gonna be available to make his competitive debut. He'll be making his debut, so that's gonna be great to watch. As well, he's the sort of player, he has clever tendencies, he's good in tight spaces, very good technically. He can give United some real issues because he's technically gifted enough, and he has that goal scoring sort of ability on him in terms of being able to strike a ball. He has real quality and real ability. United, they'll be expected to line up with Onana in goal. I think Dalot is going to be the right back. I think the partnership is going to be De Ligt, who from everybody is saying De Ligt is going to be available to start in the game. He will start in the game. He's looked good in training. De Ligt, Martinez, Mazraoui. Casemiro is going to get to start in midfield with Mainu, and then they're going to go, and then Fernandes playing a little bit above them. Mount playing a little bit in front of them. With Rashford, and then Fernandes also. So that's an that's an interesting team, a very attack-minded team, and we'll see how they take it. Mason Mount has been in very poor form. It's interesting to see if he's going to be getting the start. People are predicting him to start, but he's been on poor form even in preseason, so that's going to be interesting. Fulham, they have no injuries really to concern about. Their conductor, their star in midfield, Palhinha, is not involved now. He's at Bayern, and they've also lost Tim Ream and Tosin Adarabio over this transfer window. So it's going to be interesting how they line up. They're predicted to line up with Leno in goal. Castagna, Diop, Issa Diop with Bassi, Robinson, obviously the left back, Reed, Lukic, Traore, and then Smith Rowe is expected to take a start alongside Iwobi and Rodrigo Muniz. They're this Brazilian 23-year-old forward for Fulham. Real ability, real technical ability. Coming in, he was out of loan at Middlesbrough. He was at loan at Middlesbrough, actually. Now he's back at Fulham. We'll see how he's able to do this season. He had a pretty good season, pretty good second half of the season this past season. So it's going to be really, really fascinating how he's able to, give this makeshift United center halves a bit of a concern, because let's be honest, De Ligt and Lisandro Martinez, there will be opportunities that Munoz could really give them a struggle, and the fact that they've never played together. De Ligt has just been at the club for a few days now. He's only had like 3 days of practice, so there will be he will have his opportunities, and based on the form he had that second half of this past season, he can really make them pay. So yeah, I give Fulham a decent chance to get out of the result, and in fact, I think they will get the result. I predict them win this game. I think they'll win this game 2-0. I think that they win this game, and they'll cause some serious noise in terms of the United fan base and in terms of the media coming down at Manchester United just with the season beginning. So yeah, I look forward to the game tomorrow. Short break here coming up. When we come back, we'll react to some of the top soccer headlines. Before the break, we did Manchester United versus Fulham preview. We move on to talk about some of the top soccer headlines going on in the soccer world. Obviously, we talked about Pochettino taking the US men's national team job. Ajax, they won a Europa League shootout in the third qualifying round on Thursday, with a UEFA competition record actually being broken, with 34 penalties being needed to decide the shootout. The shootout lasted 25 minutes. Can you think about that? The shootout lasted 25 minutes long. That is more than half of a half. That's literally a quarter of the game, more than a quarter of the game. That's in time that it took the penalty shootout. Now, eventually, Ajax would win, won 13-12. With each team, it was 13-12, but each team had 17. Each team took 17 shots in the shootout. The previous longest shootout in UEFA competition actually came in a European Under-21 Championship match in 2007 with the Netherlands. They defeated England 13-12, but that was 32 attempts. This record beat them by 2 attempts. It's short of the world record. The world record is still in Israel's third tier. This actually happened in May. When Dimona and Shimshon Tel Aviv took 56 shots to decide that shootout. That's unbelievable. I wonder how long that takes. 56 shots. I wonder. Ajax goalkeeper Remco Pasveer made 5 saves. And he actually scored his own shot as well. Brilliant sort of penalty shootout for the goalkeeper. There were 6 players that actually shot twice in the shootout. It's a interesting shootout. Interesting shootout. The game actually finished 1-1 on aggregate after extra time. And then that led to penalty shootout. But yeah, Ajax, they're able to move on in the Europa League position. Spurs, they banned Yves. They have handed Yves Bissouma a 1-game ban for a video that appears of him inhaling laughing gas. Yves Bissouma, he apologized. The clip actually emerged on social media that showed him using the drug. It's considered a Class C drug. It's also known as nitrous oxide. And Spurs released a statement saying it's going to be dealt with as an internal matter. Postecoglou said Bissouma had not been responsible as a role model, and he has to fix the issues and rebuild the trust that his teammates should have, as he's going to be banned for his first game. Speaking of the decision, Bissouma said, Postecoglou said, I've been in the game a long time, and every time situations like this arise, and they do happen, I've always tried to look at them in a couple of different ways. One, is there a person involved? In this case, it's Bissouma, and he's made a really poor decision. You want to understand that and want to try to help him through that. And as a club, what we want to do, what can do to make sure he doesn't make those kind of choices and decisions in the future. With that content, there's still sanctions involved, and some of those sanctions are education and giving him a clear understanding of how wrong it was. You always want to give people an opportunity to learn from their mistakes. The second part of that is he is a football player for his club. He has responsibilities. He has responsibilities for the club. He has responsibilities to his teammates. He has responsibilities to supporters and everyone associated with the club, and he's failed in those duties. There's got to be sanctions for that. He won't be available for Monday. We've suspended him for Monday's game. Beyond that, there's some trust building that has to happen between Bis and me and Bis and the group. That's what he needs to work hard at from now on to win that back. That's got nothing to do with one game. He may be suspended for one game, but he has to earn that. The door is open for him, and hopefully we can help him to realize the decisions he make important more than just him, and allowing him to make better decisions going forward. 1 game ban for laughing gas. I don't really know the severity of laughing gas, what that exactly is, but it's a very interesting situation going down there. Ronaldinho's son, João Mendes, is nearing a move to Burnley. Son of legendary Brazilian forward, Ronaldinho is close to signing with Burnley. Scott Parker, he confirmed that the club is really close to getting the deal done for the 19-year-old who is part of Barcelona's sort of system. He spent the last year in Barcelona's academy. He's now set to arrive at Turf Moor. It's going to be a 2-year deal with him. And Parker talking about it said, Scott Parker, nothing has been officially done at this moment in time. There's something there for us. We see him as a development player and a project, but the paperwork has not been signed yet. I get the excitement, but I think it would be unfair to keep pressure on a young boy. He's coming here in a sense of development is how we see it. I get the excitement with the links. To his father. Hopefully he comes in, but there's a lot to do. Different culture, different way of doing things. So I would probably dampen that excitement down a bit. That's interesting going on there. With him going to Burnley. Interesting move for Ronaldinho's son, and we hope to see it. Atletico's Antoine Griezmann, he's still on LAFC's roster. They're dreaming of signing Antoine Griezmann after they were able to complete the signing of Olivier Giroud. They want to sort of remake that some World Cup magic that France has been able to have under Griezmann and Giroud. Griezmann remains atop of LAFC's wish list. There's also inquiries that are being made by both AC Milan and Roma over a move for Federico Chiesa, who's on the outs at Juventus. He's not part of Thiago Motta's plan for this new season, and he's not involved in training with the first team. Raheem Sterling, he's been linked on a move out. He's been linked with Juventus, but it's not likely to happen because of his wage that he earns at Stamford Bridge. So that's going to be interesting there. Southampton, they're looking at Aston Villa forward Cameron Archer. Talks are ongoing for a permanent deal for the 22-year-old, not a loan. So interesting to see if they can get it. And Ipswich Town, they're very interested in a move for Chelsea striker Armando Broja. There's been discussions on the way over a loan for it. The Blues, they're open to him parting ways. So it's interesting to see if they're able to get those negotiations done to see Armando Broja to Ipswich Town. Thank you guys for tuning into the GSMC Soccer Podcast presented by the GSMC Sport Network. Your support means a lot to us, so please remember to subscribe to the show and leave a positive review. It really does make a difference. We also invite you to follow us on Facebook, Twitter, TikTok, and Instagram for more content and updates. So thank you once again, and have a wonderful, wonderful day.
Let's go. I wake up to a little bit of drool on my pillow, feel like it's gonna be a bad day. Yeah, I'm tired of